Hey everybody, welcome to part two of this series of using Google Auto Places to find results and adjust our Google map to accommodate those results. And so in the first part, we left it here. We had gotten our map on the screen. We'd done all the setup there with the API key and such. We had hooked in Geolocator so that when this app boots, it's going to find us in the world and put us at the center of the map. And so in part two, what I'd like to do today is do the autocomplete portion. So we have a text field here that's just sitting here like a dummy, and what we'll do is wire it up so that if we input results, we'll get suggestions back from the Google Places API, and then we can select them. All right, so this app is going to that location. We won't do that in this part. We're just going to worry about the autocomplete portion. And so the way we want to tackle that is, first of all, we want to visit the API documentation, come up with a query string, a URL that we want to send to Google Auto Places to get results back. And when we get those results, we're going to want to put them into a model in our Dart language and write a service that will do that for us. We'll need to write a function in our business logic that calls that service. And then finally, we will wire that to the text field here so we get some results. And then we'll need to come up with a strategy for displaying those results on the screen for the user to select. All right, so a great place to start is the Google Places API documentation page. Let's see, the address is up here, developers.google.com/places web-service/autocomplete, or Google Places Autocomplete, and I'm sure it will bring you to this page like it did me. To be clear here, the autocomplete for places and the places search, the places detail, this is all part of the same API. So you may recall we went into our Google Cloud platform, into our console, we went to API services, we went to library, and we enabled the services that we wanted. We created a key, and we tied that key to the services that we wanted. And when we enacted the Places API or enabled it, we get autocomplete as well. So we don't need to do Places and autocomplete separately. We are going to use the straight up Places API call once we get the search results to actually get the coordinates back, because those are not contained in the search suggestions. So we are going to use both in this project. But starting with Places Autocomplete, down here, there's a dev guide here. So if we click on that, we get all the parameters that are available to us. You can read through that if you wish, and then you start getting some practical examples down here. So what I want to do is I want to search by city. And so if you want to do something different, you want to search by address, there are options here. So you can visit this documentation, come up with a query string that specifically meets your purpose. But what I want to do is find cities specifically. And so I'm actually going to grab, so you can see this one here is for addresses in French. This one here is for cities in Portuguese. I'm going to grab that. And I'm going to use Postman. You could use just a browser if you wanted to. But I'm just going to paste that one in. And I'm going to get rid of the language because I believe that English is the default. And so you can see here, if you use Postman, you get these nice options here. The input, this is the query string that we're going to pass in. The types, this is what we're looking to get back. And so I have specified cities. I need to pass in an API key as well. So I'm going to visit my Google Cloud Platform console. That's hard to say. And we're going to go to credentials. And I'm going to grab the key that we created in part one. And I'm just going to stick it right there. Bam. All right, so here's an example of what I would get back if I were to put in VICT. Let's just try new. And I see I'm gonna get New York back, Newark, New Jersey, New Haven, Connecticut. So you could also accomplish this sort of with just the Places API by doing a string search on places, but the autocomplete, this is Google. This is what they do. They collect data on you and they use it to search things. So they're going to come back with suggestions that are very specific to the user. They kind of know, they seem to know where I live, because if I, even though I'm not signed in on this thing, if I put something in there, it comes up with a result that is near to me anyway. So they have their ways of knowing what you're looking for. So this will give me the string that I want, and all I'm going to have to do is just pass in my input from what the user types, and we should be good to go there. But when I get these results back, I'm going to want to model them and turn them into a Dart object. And so just looking down here, I've got the pretty on, so I can make heads or tails of what I'm getting down below. And I don't really want many fields from this. What I'm going to want is I'm going to want the description, because I want to display in a list view the results that are coming back so that the user can click on them if they wish to select them. And then really the only other thing that I'm interested in here, you can see there's no coordinates that I might want. I'm going to have to go to Places API specifically for that. But I'm going to want this place ID. So I can then, if they click on it, I can then turn around to the Places ID and say, here is the ID that I'm looking for, or the Places API. Here's the ID that I'm looking for. Give me back the information that I want, which is going to include the coordinates. So I'm going to write a model that specifically scrapes off this description and this Places ID. All right, so coming back here to our code, we do not have a models folder yet. So inside lib, I'm going to create a folder called models. And then we will create a new file, and I'm going to call it place_search.dart. So I'm going to actually hit the Places API later. So I'm going to put a underscore there with search so I know which is which. And so we'll do class place search. And like I said, the two fields I'm interested in are description and place ID. Both are strings, so I'm going to write a final string description and place ID. And so we'll do a constructor for that. And we'll do named objects, this named properties. And then I'll just do a factory constructor so I can pass in JSON and convert that into a Dart object really easily. So factory place search, and we'll call the constructor from JSON. And we will pass in a map with string keys and dynamic values. And we'll call what we're going to get out of that JSON. And then in our curly braces, we will just return a new place search object that we just created. And for our description, we will give JSON description. And I need square brackets there. And then for our place ID, we're going to get that also from JSON, and I'm just going to refer back here. So place ID underscore, like that, all lowercase, and we'll add a semicolon at the end there. And so I put place ID in my Dart model in camel case to be conventional with Dart, and the object I'm getting from, or the property I'm getting from the JSON has snake case. So this is where I map the snake case place ID I'm getting from here to the camel case property for Dart. Don't have to do that, but if you want to stick with convention, this is where you can map those two to each other. All right, now that the model is done, I want to write a service to go and get that information from the Places Autocomplete API and to convert it into this object. So in our services folder, which we already have for Geolocator, let's create a Places service. And I'm going to use this for calling the autocomplete API and then just the regular Places API, so I don't need to worry about naming it differently. So we'll call this a class Places service. And we already imported the HTTP package in the previous video, so it's in pubspec.yaml already and has been imported. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring that in here. That's package http/http.dart. And I'm going to bring it in as HTTP. Now I also know I'm going to need to use the convert from Dart, so I'll bring import Dart convert as convert. All right, so we will create a future that is going to return us a list of the place search object that we just created. And I'm going to call that get autocomplete. And that's going to take in a string, so this is going to be the query or the search parameters. So we'll call it search. That's asynchronous. And I'm going to create a URL variable, and this is going to be our query string. So I'm going to visit Postman. And I am just going to grab it from here. And put quotes around it before I do that would be better. Okay, and I don't want to put this key inside this string. So what I'm going to do is up at the top here, I'm going to create a final key variable. And I'm going to put, oh, not that. I'm going to put my key in there so I could grab it off of this string, or I'll just grab it from here. All right, so don't use this key. Use whatever key you have off of your console, and instead of that, we're just going to put key. And the other thing we won't want to put in here, we won't want to hard code our search. So we'll come in here and we'll do search like that. All right, so after we have the URL, we're going to go ahead and await http.get our URL, and let's set that to a variable called response. And let's create a variable called JSON, which we will set to convert JSON decode response.body. And just looking back here at our results, so we're going to get this predictions array, and we want to get the results here as a list. So we'll dive into that level by going, we'll call it JSON results, and we'll go JSON, and we're going to get the predictions. And we will cast that to a list. So we are getting this predictions object, and that's what we're going to grab. And then so we're going to get back a list of all the objects within it. All right, so if this wasn't named, we wouldn't need to do that. But since they have stuck an identifier, a key on the array, we need to go into predictions and get the list from there. So let's return JSON results map. So this goes through each one of the results, which we'll call a place. And we can call place search dot from JSON. So this is that custom factory constructor we built. Pass it in that place, and then come out here and cast that all to a list. All right, so now we have a model and we have a service that will reach out to the autocomplete places API and convert that into our model object. And so now we just want to, we don't want to call this directly from the service, so we want to put the ability to call this from our view into our business logic. And we'll do that in our block. So we already have a block in blocks folder, application block, this very cleverly named block here. And so inside of there, we want to add, let's add it below set current location. We will do search places. And so we'll get string search term. And that's going to be asynchronous. And we will await places service. Which I'll need to bring in here. So let's come up to the top and let's bring in an instance of places service. Like that, and then we should be able to call, if I can get this variable correct, get autocomplete, and we can pass that our search term. Okay, so that will go get it, but it's not going to be of a whole lot of use to us because we aren't loading it to anything. So let's come up to the top here, and in our variable section, let's create a list of type place search, and we'll create a variable called search results. And so when we make that search, we can now set this equal to the search result variable. And if we want to listen to that with change notifier provider, we should add notify listeners so that our UI is aware that that variable has changed. All right, so we should be able to call this from our view now. So if we come out to screens and we go to home screen.dart, we have this text field already in the UI. Let's wrap it with some padding just to get it off the margins there. And I'm just going to use the default padding. That's fine, so it doesn't look so bad. And I think I'll just add a magnifying glass to the side. So we'll do a suffix icon. I'm outside of the decoration. So in the decoration, we'll do suffix icon, icons, and I'll just do icon dot search, and that should be icon. There, that looks more like a search field. All right, and so for that search to work, what would be a good idea is that every time we tap or input a value into that field, that it sends to our business logic whatever we put in there. So the first letter, the second letter, every time we do it, we want it to adjust the suggestions. So we can do that with the onChanged. And so we can grab the value off onChanged and fat arrow over to application block, search places, and we can pass it whatever is in that text field. All right, and I have no reason to, at this point, believe that that is not working, but we don't actually display anything on the screen. So let me come to Places Service. I'm just going to put a breakpoint there, and I get nothing. Oh, I forgot to save my application block. All right. There we go. All right, so now I'm getting results in. I'm passing in SDDDDA, and it is throwing that out to the autocomplete API and probably coming up with a very confused result. But we are at least making the call. So at this point, let's go ahead and put these results on the screen so we can actually see them. And to do that, we need a strategy for a place to display them. And what I decided to do in this one, you can certainly push it down. You can make the map disappear. But what I did here is create a stack with the map at the bottom and then a container on top that is a semi-transparent dark container for transparency, or for the purpose so you can actually see the results on the screen. And then I've got a list view that is inside a container also in the stack on top of that transparent container that displays the results. So that's the strategy that I took here. So to make that work, I am going to go back to my home screen, and I'm going to take the container that has the Google Map in it, and I'm going to wrap it with a column just for convenience sake, and then I'm going to change the column to a stack. And I'm just going to do that because there is no option for stack from the selector there. And if I just do a generic widget, then I have to put in children and put in an array. So that works out easiest. And so I've got my container here with the Google Map. And after that, I'm going to create another container. And I'm going to want to conditionally show that. But for now, let's just do height 300, so that's the same height as the map. And the width of double dot infinity, so as far as it can go. The map does that automatically. We didn't specify that up here, but it's doing it automatically. And let's add a decoration. We'll add a box decoration. And we'll give it a color, and the color will be colors.black with opacity. So we want this to be somewhat transparent. I'm going to do 0.6. And then I'm going to do a background blend mode, and I'm going to do blend mode darken. All right. Format that. We'll save it. And I can see we've got a darkened container over the map. And so after that, we're going to add one more container. This will also want to be conditional, but we'll come back and do that in a second. Same height. And the child for this container is going to be a list view builder. So if we have results, we will go ahead and build a list with those results. And for item count, let's start with item count. Our item count is going to be application block search results dot length. So we're using change notifier provider, and we have in our business logic here, we have notified listeners. So every time we get new search results and we have some to show, we'll pass those to the UI with notify listeners. And then our item builder, we'll take a context, an index, and then we'll open up some curly braces. And to make this easy on ourselves, let's just return a list tile. And the title will be text widget with our application block dot search results bracket index dot description. And we're going to want that to be white so it stands out on our black background. So let's add a style attribute, which will be a text style widget, and the color will be colors.white. Get our commas, our semicolons. All right, so now if we get that nonsense out of there and we start putting in some letters that make sense, we can see we have results sitting right here on the screen. And they go away, but the darkness doesn't go away. So let's add our conditions in here. So let's just stick an if statement right in front of here, and let's say if application block search results is not equal to null. And also, so that would be the initial condition. We come in and it is set to null. And then if we pass it something that, or if we clear out the string and it's a blank string, it's going to pass us empty results. And so we also would not want to show it in that case. So let's say application block.searchResults.length is not equal to 0. All right, and what that's going to do for us is if we get search results here and we decide to just clear it out, then it's also going to disappear. If we didn't just include the search result length equals 0, then once we had searched, we wouldn't be able to back it out because it'd never be null again. All right, so once again, it looks like I've eclipsed my 20 to 25 minute window, but we do have a working autocomplete at this point. And so in the next episode of this series, we're going to do 4 parts of this. So part 3 will be about changing the map results. So when we autocomplete, we pick a location, we're going to have the map adjust and go to that location. So that will be next time. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you in that video.